Greetings everyone. In this video presentation I'll be covering this topic I would like to call "We see the world as we are, not as the world is." That comes from a fairly well-known quote, and we can consider that everything in the external world that we're observing has no meaning until someone gives a subjective meaning to it. Also, just like data in a computer file has no meaning, there's no patterns or significance to it until it's processed by some type of program or application that gives meaning to it. We can consider our lives and the world around us to operate in a similar and an analogous way. Thus, if we're watching a show on television, one person could have one reaction to that show, another person could have a completely different reaction to that show. We might meet a particular person, and when we meet them we have a certain feeling or vibe that we pick up from that person. We form a certain impression about them. We have this story in our minds that we've just created about who that person is. And yet some other person interacting with that same individual would often create a completely different story about them. They might see them in a completely different way as it relates to the programming that they have, to the values, the priorities, the conditions that have been impressed upon them in their lifetime. Therefore, it's helpful to remember this as we go about our lives and interact with other people. We each have a very limited perspective, and we've been exposed to different experiences and different information than other people have, and therefore we don't all interpret the world in the same way. We don't all have the same values, the same priorities, the same beliefs about ourselves and the world around us. One rather simple example of this would be to look at political campaigns and elections and seeing how people will choose a particular candidate or party, and they'll have their justification for why they see things in that particular way. Those people have access to very limited information. Those people's understanding of the world that they exist in is very limited. Therefore, people can have strong opinions and beliefs about things where they may know very little about it, or they may have false information, they may have illusions about how things actually are. This is something that is significant really in every aspect of our life. In our relationships, we have very limited information about other people, and yet we form strong ideas or beliefs about those people. We have very limited knowledge about history, about science, about medicine, about so many different topics that are relevant to our human experience. And we go about our lives often assuming things to be true that we've never really thoroughly investigated. We just conveniently accepted the things we were told were true. It may have been something we accepted because we were taught that in school, and we needed to retain that knowledge and produce it on a test to show that we had learned something. It may have been something that we were taught in our family, something that we saw in a television program or read in a book. yet it's very hard to actually investigate and fully prove to ourselves that any particular piece of information that we've picked up is truly accurate. Considering that, it's helpful to step outside of the box of our own beliefs and our own perception of reality, to be open to considering and exploring how other people have come to their conclusions or developed their beliefs, to see how their perspective has been created. Sometimes we may encounter a person who has much more information, much greater experience and awareness than ourselves. Other times it may be the reverse, where we have a greater range of information and experience to relate to than other people that we encounter, and it would be hard for them to understand where we're coming from, while we might understand where they're coming from, since we might observe that there are many things they're not aware of, which we are aware of. And of course, that could be reversed, where someone else might see why you don't understand things because you have very limited experience or information to draw upon. In order for our species to progress and evolve, it's important for us to be open to explore these different perspectives, to be able to communicate with one another so that we can expand our information base, so that we can have more potential ways of seeing and understanding things, and continually refining our knowledge so that we can have a wider perspective, a more holistic understanding of life. We tend to look at things often in very polarized ways, since we're seeing things in a fragmented and separate manner, rather than being able to observe the totality of the whole. Many of us are, metaphorically speaking, staring at trees and not seeing the forest. We're looking at a very narrow field of information or data and drawing conclusions or interpretations based upon that. Whereas if we could see the whole picture, if we could see that entire forest, then we would perceive and understand things in a much different way. This is something that I encourage each of you to take into consideration, and to be open to exploring more ideas, more perspectives about life and about existence. There's much for all of us to learn, and even people who appear to be very wise and knowledgeable may actually be very limited in their awareness relative to beings at some higher level of experience and existence. It's been my pleasure to take this time to share, to speak with you. I'm grateful for each of you for taking your time to view this video, and I encourage those who are watching this to watch more of my YouTube videos. You can also visit my website at www.phinsights.com, and I can be found on Facebook. My professional page there is facebook.com/Jedi Holistic Healing. I wish everyone a good day. Namaste.